The ethical policies are central to the bank today, as it was when it was introduced back in 1992. It was against the nature of the times then. People were saying business is business. It wasn't about ethics, but the policies stood the test of times, and it's at the heart of what a cooperative business is about. It says we care about more than just profits. We care about the way in which those profits are made.
What does an ethical bank look like? It isn't just about the environment. It's as much about human rights, about supply chains, about animal welfare issues, about working conditions in developing countries.
In 1992, when the Co-operative Bank introduced its policy to end cosmetics testing on animals, it was a very radical step.
The Co-operative Bank launched its ethical policy. It was absolutely in the vanguard, and we were absolutely delighted as Amnesty International to be working alongside the Co-op.
So when the bank began to bring forward some of its thinking and some of its ideas which led to the policy in 1992, it was well ahead of its time.
These are the trees the Wilkinsons planted with the interest on their savings account, which, they didn't realise, had been loaned to an industrial giant that ceaselessly spews toxic waste.
The approach of business to human rights in the late 80s and early 90s was one where they didn't see its relevance.
What was very unusual actually when the Co-op Bank did this, I think they were really among the first to say, well look, let's offer fair trade in the vending machines for all our staff. And I think that was also the great thing about the Co-op Bank initiative. They did it themselves, but then they also wrote to hundreds of companies and said, look, we've shown it can be done. You can have fair trade coffee in your vending machines and staff will enjoy it and like it. So we challenge you to follow the lead we've set.
The hunting days of the Bedfordshire ferrets who've fallen victim to the Co-op's political correctness are over. They'd never have made the bank's fortune, admittedly, but their account will soon be back with Lloyds.
Well, we're joined now by Simon Williams of the Co-op Bank. How much business are you prepared to lose in your campaign against ferrets?
Well, it's not a case that's come up many times, but what we are prepared to do is ensure that the policies that we're mandated to carry out by our customers about what we'll do with their money are carried out.
Well, the Co-operative Bank is one of several companies that has become well known for applying ethical standards to their business, but a new advertisement from the bank has been rejected by Vogue magazine for being what Vogue called tediously controversial. The advert shows rabbits being used in a laboratory experiment behind a typical soft focus faced cream ad.
Touch the tripwire of the Valmara 69 bounding landmine, and ball bearings would be blasted through those of you seated in rows A to G at over 1,000 miles per hour, literally tearing you apart. Those in rows H to L would be maimed beyond all recognition, while the rest of you would be left critically wounded. Valmara 69 landmines cost just £30 each. Certain regimes throughout the world borrow millions of pounds in order to plant landmines indiscriminately, which is why one bank never has and never will finance the supply of arms to oppressive regimes.
So in 1998, the Co-operative Bank went one step further and actually extended their ethical policy to household products. This is a very significant step because even now in 2009, it's still perfectly legal to test household products on animals.
In 1998, when the bank began to look in particular at the importance of climate change and not doing business with those who were leading the contribution to climate change, and a host of other policies which since then the bank has decided are ethically so important in its own mind and the minds of its customers that it won't do business with those who make their money out of it.
in 2001 that the bank adopted the principles that are in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It was the first financial institution to do that. It was unprecedented to see financial institutions taking these positions where they would say that they didn't want to be involved and they didn't want their customers involved in repressive regimes such as in Burma.
This is a cluster bomb, one of the most commonly used air-delivered weapons in the world. It carries hundreds of submunitions or bomblets, each no bigger than a drinks can.
Money can make a world of difference.
Look at great apes, they're our closest living relative, and it's particularly significant that the cooperative has decided that now is the time to say that we don't want to see them abused.
The essence of ethical banking is the science that underpins it. Tar sands provides the oil companies with an opportunity to get an additional source of hydrocarbons, of oil, out of the ground. But every single barrel of oil equivalent you get from the tar sands causes at least twice as much CO2.
I think the extension of the policy to cover indiscriminate weapons is excellent, and it's great to see that extended to involve cluster bombs, whether they are used by any government across the world. And as Amnesty International, we are delighted by that development.
I think for a lot of people working in the finance sector, there's still something counterintuitive in turning down business. And it is the clarity with which the bank has decided not to invest in companies involved in certain sectors over the years that shows the difference between its approach to banking and that of mainstream banking.
It's also important that consumers who care about these issues have somewhere that they can bank and somewhere that they can shop that doesn't conflict with their own ethical values.
And for us at Amnesty International, it is great to know that the Co-operative Bank's customers share our concerns about human rights. And I know that other businesses are watching the Co-op to see where they need to be following.
Those things that started out in the ethical policy have become public policy, and we want to lead that public policy forward with the revisions to the ethical policy that are being made now. And the fact that 80,000 of our customers have participated in updating it just shows how important it is to them. And we think a third of the bank's profits come from customers who've joined it just because of the ethical policy. So it's been a real differentiating factor for the bank. It's been part of our heritage, and we see it as central to what the bank stands for going forward.